final swap of phase one of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Two Israeli men have already been released at Rafah. They had been held for more than a decade since they respectively crossed into Gaza of their own accord in 2014 and 2015. The men now back in Israel. Now, the scene is set for four more Israeli men to be released in Nuseirat, all of which were abducted when Hamas and other militants launched a surprise attack on Israel on October 7th of 2023. In return, Israel is expected to release some 602 Palestinian prisoners and detainees. For more, we can speak to our correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky. Hello to you again, Noga. On our screens right now, we appear to be seeing perhaps the Red Cross vehicles arriving in Nuseirat. What should we be expecting?
Right. Well, there's some last-minute changes here. We understand now that not 4 but 3 hostages are going to be released there in the scene you're seeing in Nuseirat. This is Omer Venkart, Omer Ben Shem Tov, and Elia Cohen, who has a particularly dramatic story. No one knew what was the fate of Elia Cohen until just about 10 days ago, when released hostages reported having seen him in poor shape with shrapnel in his eye, chained in tunnels, but alive. So no one knew. His family had no knowledge of him since October 7th, 2023. And the other piece of news we have about him is that he did not know whether his fiancée had survived or not. They were together with her nephew and the nephew's girlfriend in the same shelter at the time of the Hamas attack. The nephew and the girlfriend were killed in the attack, and Ziv Aboud, Elia Cohen's girlfriend, managed to survive. So for him, assuming he's released and assuming he's well, there may be a good surprise today. His entire family's waiting. And what we've just heard is that the fourth and final hostage slated to be released today, Hisham Sayed, also a very dramatic story. He is actually going to release separately and alone in Gaza City at some point later today.
All right, so multi-phase release possibly this Saturday. Noga, this is a very fragile ceasefire. We saw that in the previous weeks, but all the more so after what happened with the Bibas family. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, the Bibas family is one of many terrible stories of the day of Hamas's attack, October 7th, 2023. It's worth probably remembering the shock felt that day. Hamas launched a massive surprise attack against Israel, the most successful attack against Israel in its history, or the worst failure, depending on how you put it, and one of the worst terror incidents in history, in human history. 1,200 people were killed, more than 250 were taken hostage, dragged back to Gaza. Among them, the 4 members of the Bibas family from Nir Oz, a community that was really ravaged. They lost 1/4 of their members to death or to captivity. The Bibas family, father Yarden, mother Shiri, who was seen, she was filmed by Hamas GoPro cameras on the terrorist chests, screaming in terror as she clutched her 2 small babies, one just almost 9 months old, but not yet. And Hamas posted those videos in real time, very proud of their achievements. But those images of her terror and of the 2 tiny boys became iconic symbols of the tragedy that occurred in Israel. They were separated. Yarden, the father, had left his home with an armed in the hope of being able to protect his family. He was overcome and taken hostage. He was seen bleeding badly from his head, being dragged on a motorcycle to Gaza, and separately, apparently a few hours later, having been taken out of their safe room. We saw those images of Shiri and the 2 boys. We now know that about 5 weeks or so, a little more than a month into captivity, according to the Israeli forensic results, they were murdered. They were murdered in cold blood. The children, we know from the Israeli evidence again, were murdered using the bare hands of the terrorists. They were either strangled or suffocated, and their bodies were then mutilated to make it appear as if they had died in an Israeli airstrike. We don't yet have that kind of granular detail about the death of Shiri Bibas, their mom, who was 32, but we do know that it was determined that she was murdered, and we're waiting for further details, probably at some point later today.
Thank you very much, Noga Tarnopolsky, reporting there. And as you can see on your screen, the Red Cross vehicles have arrived at Nuseirat in central Gaza, where the second site of today's expected hostage and prisoner swap is to take place. We will try to bring you that once it does occur here on Paris Direct.